But after reboot, everything seems to be working just fine. But what are we actually getting inside the device itself? So first of all, I already noticed that I have some weird things going on when it comes to, let's say, the device, unfortunate. So when it comes to overall support, it seems to be having all the way up to PlayStation Portable. But you know, with these devices, and if you didn't know, now you know, is that it's not always going to be having a great overall experience. So this is like the quick menu where we can choose our game. Before we're going to be moving into the gaming emulation, let's press the reset button over here. The reset button is actually the menu button where we have the option to continue the game, restart, archive the location, making quick locate save, and these are basically like combined with the archive location. And then we're having this horrible D-pad, by the way, and the handle control. There's nothing much you can change out, and also when it comes to the aspect ratio, this is actually what we're having when it comes to, let's say, the menu and everything else. And it is very, very horrible, in my opinion. There's not a lot of stuff we can actually do here. But how about the emulation performance? That when it comes to this old school stuff, think about a Game Boy or an 8-bit, we do have some great performance over here. Another thing I'm going to be mentioning is that this D-pad is absolutely horrible. It's I think one of the worst D-pads I've ever seen and feel in my life. Later on I'll do an in-depth about it, why this is. But the analog stick makes it up and makes this thing absolutely great for playing. Also the D-pad positioning, I really hate this. The landscape models, in my opinion, are quite comfortable to play. Also if you're going to be needing to press the shoulder buttons, it's in my opinion not the best configuration yet, but still it is playable. Okay, so next up let's take a close look at some arcade gaming, and here I don't hear any weird things going on, don't see any weird, let's say, screen tearings or whatsoever. So this is absolutely an overall cool experience when it comes to arcades. Take considerations if you're going to be playing some MAME Killer Instinct or you want to play Tekken MAME, that is not going to be running any soon on this. These devices are just great for the simple games. But let's be honest, there are a zillion different handhelds nowadays that can actually play this. But in combination with a beautiful display, it does look absolutely great in my opinion. That's great, absolutely. The same is also for the Game Boy Classic. Oh man, widescreen shenanigans. But how about the movement? So this is a great way to test also the D-pad. And if you need to press it left or right or up and down, well, it seems to be working fine, but the resistance is absolutely crazy. But here you can see, like, I'm trying to basically try to put it in the down position, but it also wants to navigate to the right. So this thing is absolutely horrendous to play. I will prefer to use the joystick. But the joystick to the other side is also very sensitive. So I need to really get used to this to play some Tetris on this. So when it comes to the 8-bit stuff, it runs just great on here. They also mapped the turbo buttons to the other buttons. That's kind of cool, to be honest. But take consideration, they're also using this weird looking filter over it. I don't find it a little bit of an, let's say, annoying thing, but that's something you need to take consideration. There's no way of changing out the filtering of this device. So that is also a thing they need to consider. It's very limited to that part. But so far I can see there is no extreme screen tearing or whatsoever going on. It has been set to the 60:9 resolution of the panel, and there is no way of setting it all the way back to 4:3. So that's also a little bit of a bummer in my opinion. Next up, let's move into the Super NES part, but I can still see the weird glitching going on. So in other words, my display is just actually dying as making this review. Yeah, so this is going to be a product that we're going to send back to China, because this is absolutely worth it in my opinion. But let's go on with the overall emulation performance, because I'm really curious what this thing can actually play, because this is the reason I just testing out all of these games. But so far so good, the emulation is quite nice when it comes to the 16-bit era and the low-end stuff. I completely messed up the part. No! Oh! Yeah, okay. I did this part so freaking many times. I'm completely like blowing this. Oh. Okay, so you can even see in the Sega testing that my display is having some issues, or is just actually an emulation. Oh man, it's glitching out like crazy. Oh crap, oh crap. I'm also getting myself killed by the car. Yeah, so maybe this is actually a game that is very demanding to emulate on a device, but still I just wanted to showcase what happens with these cheaper devices. We do have some weird things going on. when it comes to the audio, in my opinion, but the overall, let's say, experience is not super bad at all. Oh, by the way, if you wonder why this screen is flicking, it's just basically because my screen is just dying on me over here. Battery life is like around 70% still. But nevertheless, the overall emulation performance, I'm quite surprised to see that this actually runs on this device. Or we do have like widescreen shenanigans. No, this is absolutely pretty damn cool in my opinion. Same story, I'm going to play with the analog stick. It plays very well, because the D-pad is making this thing unplayable. So when it comes to N64 and performance, I know there were a couple of games like Cruis'n USA, and you know, even more demanding games will struggle, but there were a couple of games that you can actually play on this. But when you're having PlayStation 1, now we can play it on so many different devices, including this one too. But let's start off one of my all-time favorite games that I've played so much. And man, I never get bored of this game. And that is of course Twisted Metal. Also the second part is absolutely amazing. They did implement the soundtracks. That is something they most of the time just forget or don't want to, because it takes up a lot of freaking storage space. Oh, there we go. I say in combination with the back triggers, it is still playable. But next up, let's try some PlayStation Portable. Take consideration, these devices are not capable of running every single game perfectly. But there are some games I can actually play. In combination with this display, it does look pretty damn amazing on this. You can already see that it has some weird things going on. Oh man. Look at the vibration of the display. I've never seen it so bad. Where this thing is absolutely set in frame skip number 1. There is no way of getting into the special menu. I mean, in particular when it comes to PPSSPP emulator. You're just stuck with this single freaking annoying menu where there is actually nothing you can do with it. So let's get into some cool games that I really enjoy, and Cherish is one of them that I've played on all sorts kinds of devices. And here you can just see that it runs perfectly without any problem. Another thing they messed up is that the controls are completely messed up, because the X is over here. That is not normal. It should be at the A position, but okay, you can maybe switch that out. So when you're receiving a device and you're actually going to have a lot of shenanigans like you're seeing over here, having a dual screen, this means there is seriously something wrong with it. It is not like a problem I can't fix. I have tried to reboot it, and after a couple of times you do have the option just to get the normal screen going on. But this is one of those many things you're getting with the device sometimes from AliExpress, and you know it's not going to be a great show. Pressing A, we're getting ourselves the menu where we're finding all of the different games, if there are even some games on it. So underneath here we're finding the very tiny icon saying that this is going to be the favorite list. Here we're having even the history search option that we can search our games. So let's try that first. Let's say we're going to search for Sonic, and let's see how it actually works, and does it work fine. And yep, indeed it works pretty damn great. Pressing this icon over here will completely mess it up. Let's see if we can go back. Then the settings menu where we can adjust the brightness, and the display panel in here does go very bright. But I've noticed when you're going to be to the full maximum, there are some weird things going on over here. The battery life is just great, so that is not a problem. But you can see going to the certain point over here, it will basically darken out. It's kind of weird, so I'm guessing the panel cannot handle it. It's kind of a bummer in my opinion. First, when you're getting it, sometimes has been set to a different language like Chinese. We can set the time of date, the key tune, and then we're having the themes that we can change out. But beside that, there is basically not a lot of stuff you can actually do, and never go to the restore factory setting, because sometimes it's going to be messing up your system itself. But looking at the specifications, that explains a lot why some of the emulators didn't run great. It runs on a Rockchip 3128 quad-core Cortex, where the competition is using different kind of chipset that are more powerful. But a good thing is the IPS panel, where we're going to do a quick look at later on. But when you're also looking at the game time, they are claiming to have around 2 hours of game time, and I can relate to that. It's not going to be a lot, so that's also a big negative point in my opinion. Where this thing looks pretty damn badass in my opinion, especially on the picture on AliExpress, I have some concerns with this device. The configuration at the top, here we're finding the reset button. I've shown you that you're going to get in the quick menu, on and off switch, and here we're going to get 4 shoulder buttons, the USB for charging, and of course the HDMI. But the HDMI output is absolutely a great feature of this device. It's just a plug and play, you just plug in the cable, take in consideration there is no cable included, and you need to have a mini HDMI to an HDMI. And the overall signal output is also not bad at all. But in the end, when you're just going to plug in a game, and in combination with a Game Boy Advance emulator, for example, you can just see that actually they're using this very strange filter over it. And I completely understand why they're doing this, because implementing a filter will give you an overall better picture quality than having this completely overstretched pixelated picture. So yeah, is this looking way better? That is something you should decide, but I think it looks really horrible. But the emulation performance and the way you can just play on the television like that is pretty damn cool. And if you want to continue without television, you're just going to be plugging it out. And it works like a charm like that. And let's plug it back in. Sometimes it will take some time to be redirected to the display, but it works like a charm. The shoulder buttons are just micro switched, and the travel itself is of course very narrow. Nevertheless, it's a very nice looking device when it comes to this. I don't like shoulder buttons, especially when it comes to some handhelds. But here I think this is a very nice overall experience when it comes to the trigger button. There's a very nice form and it is very comfortable and it has a very nice response. So when it comes to certain games like Twisted Metal, I did realize that it is very comfortable to play. But yeah, so when it comes to this particular device, I do have some concerns, particularly when it comes to the D-pad, because that is pretty damn bad. Where I don't like the positioning, this thing is absolutely unplayable. The directions you're having when it comes to playing Tetris on other games, when pressing down or right, it's completely giving you a different direction. And the travel, it's not that bad, but when you're looking at it, this thing has so much resistance that it makes it super uncomfortable. Then of course the 2 joystick configuration with the click, and I must say that it is very sensitive. It is similar to the Nintendo Switch, and I must say it makes some of the games still playable. At the front we're having 2 speakers and they don't sound that bad, to be honest. You do hear this crackling noise, and this is not even because it's this maximum volume, but yeah, I don't know, man, it's something wrong with the emulation itself, because I did hear it, but not with every single emulator. But that is basically the overall button configuration, and of course having the ABXY. Some of the Nintendo Switch, these tiny buttons have a nice feedback, and I must say, yeah, I can really appreciate these things. The most interesting, and I must say the unique, is that we're having the volume control at the bottom. That is something you don't see every day. So beside having the problems with the display, it does look very nice. Up front we're going to get ourselves a nice plexi that is very thick. So this 4-inch display looks absolutely great. It does have a very strange resolution to it, but when you're looking at the quality, it's very difficult to record due of the glossy front, but it's looking pretty damn nice. And yeah, I must say I was very surprised by that. But how this thing came in is absolutely lovable, but also to cry for at the same time. Look at how the box, it's absolutely a miracle that this thing survived the trip to here. But inside the box we're going to have ourselves the A380 self-corrupting SD cards, because they are like really cheap and they get corrupted someday. Then of course a very nice looking Type-C cable for charging and data transfer, and a very cool looking Game Max bag where you can put in your device to keep it safe. Then the quality pass, that quality pass my ass with that, because it's absolutely not quality pass for me, especially when looking at the display. And here a quick explanation about everything else, including some information about the device itself in the specifications list.